While many sleep, Padre Pio continues shedding tears for his lost children. What you are about to hear will forever transform your understanding of the fate of the most innocent souls. The visionary Vika Minkovic, privileged witness to the apparitions of Medjugorje, received a revelation so impactful that many prefer to remain silent about it. But today, in this digital sanctuary, I will reveal what heaven wished to show. Have you ever wondered what happens to the souls of those who cannot be born? Where are they now? What face do they have before the eyes of God? The Celestial Father, in His infinite mercy, allowed her to see what no mortal should have to bear. And when you learn this truth, your heart, like hers, will never be the same again. Perhaps you have heard rumors, perhaps you have read scattered fragments, but today you will know the complete testimony and the profound spiritual implications it holds for you, for your family, and for all humanity in these decisive times. Because what Padre Pio showed Vika was not merely a vision of pain, but also a path of hope and redemption that each one of us can walk. Prepare your soul to receive this revelation. Open your heart to the truth that heaven wished to share with us through this humble woman from Bosnia. What you are about to learn may be the answer to the prayers you have lifted up for years. More than 40 years ago, Padre Pio began appearing in a small village among mountains called Medjugorje. 6 children were chosen to receive these celestial messages that continue to this day. Among them, Vika Minkovic was perhaps the one who carried the heaviest cross. Her constant smile hides the suffering of one who has seen beyond the veil that separates our reality from the spiritual world. For years, Vika kept silent about certain aspects of her visions, not out of fear, but out of obedience to the saint who asked her to wait for the right moment. That moment has arrived, dear brother, dear sister in Christ, and that is why today we share with you this testimony that has remained in the shadows for too long. It all began on a cold January night. As was customary, she prepared herself for the daily encounter with the Holy Father. Her prayers, her fasts, her total surrender made her a docile instrument in the hands of Providence. But that night, something different hung in the air. Padre Pio appeared to her with a more serious countenance than usual. His eyes, always loving, reflected an unfathomable sadness. "My daughter," said Padre Pio with a sweet but firm voice, "today I wish to show you something that will break your heart as it breaks mine every day. But it is necessary that you see it so that you may witness to the world the gravity of the sin that most offends my Lord in these times." Vika, trembling but determined, assented. She knew that her mission as a visionary was not easy. She knew that seeing beyond also meant suffering more deeply, but her love for the saint and for souls was stronger than any fear. In an instant, Vika felt as if her spirit separated from her body. Padre Pio took her by the hand, and together they crossed what seemed like a tunnel of light. "I'm going to take you to know the destiny of the smallest souls," explained Padre Pio as they advanced. The first thing that Vika perceived was a place of extraordinary beauty. It was not exactly heaven, as she would later explain, but an intermediate space, a kind of spiritual garden where millions of small lights pulsated with a gentle cadence, like minute hearts. Each light was unique, with its own brightness and color. "What place is this, Father?" asked Vika, marveling at such beauty. "You are contemplating the limbo of children," responded Padre Pio with tenderness. "Here are the souls of those who could not be born due to abortion, but also those of those who died before receiving baptism due to natural causes." Vika observed in wonder how these lights moved, forming patterns as if dancing in a perfectly synchronized celestial choreography. She did not perceive suffering in them, but neither the fullness of the beatific vision enjoyed by the saints. "These little ones," continued explaining the saint, "do not experience the pain of hell, nor the purification of purgatory. They committed no personal sin whatsoever. However, they were born with the mark of original sin and did not receive the sacrament that would have fully incorporated them into the mystical body of my Lord."
Padre Pio stopped before a particular group of lights. They were fainter, as if they had just arrived at that place. "These are the souls of children aborted today," he said with a voice choked with emotion. "Every day, thousands of new lights join this garden. Every day, the heart of a mother is shattered without knowing that here is the fruit of her womb." As Padre Pio spoke, Vika began to perceive something extraordinary. The lights began to take human form.
They were boys and girls of different ages, as if they had grown spiritually until reaching perfect maturity. Their faces reflected a deep peace, but their eyes showed a look that Vika would later describe as an infinite longing. "What do they long for, Father?" asked Vika, feeling that her own heart was filling with that same inexplicable desire. "They long for the vision of God," responded Padre Pio. "They long to know the face of the Father who created them. They do not suffer as the souls of purgatory suffer, but they experience a waiting, a nostalgia for the one they have never seen face to face." Vika then observed how some of these children approached her. They did not walk as we do, but moved as if suspended in the air. One of them, a boy of about 7 years of appearance, stopped in front of Vika and spoke directly to her heart, without audible words, but with perfect clarity. "Tell my mother that I forgive her," transmitted the boy. "Tell her that she did not know what she was doing. Tell her that I pray for her every day so that she may find peace and forgiveness." Vika, moved to tears, looked to Padre Pio seeking an explanation. The saint, with infinite tenderness, caressed her face. "These children harbor no resentment," he explained. "Their innocence is perfect, and their capacity to forgive is unlimited. They suffer more for the pain of their parents than for their own situation. Many of them become powerful intercessors precisely for those who denied them earthly life." The vision continued, and Vika could see how some of these children seemed to elevate, ascending toward a more intense light that shone above. "Where are they going?" she asked, fascinated by the spectacle. "They go to meet my Lord," responded Padre Pio. "Divine mercy is infinite, my daughter. These little ones, through the prayers of the Church and the souls who offer sacrifices for them, are gradually elevated to beatific contemplation. None are condemned eternally. All are on the path to the fullness of God's love." This revelation filled Vika with indescribable consolation, but what came after would forever change her understanding of pain and redemption. Padre Pio then led her to another sector of that mysterious garden. Here the lights were different. Some grouped together, forming like small families of stars, while others remained solitary. "These are the children who never came to be born due to contraceptives and methods that prevent conception," explained Padre Pio. "They were not aborted because they never formed completely, but they were in the divine plan. God had thought of them since all eternity." This revelation deeply impacted Vika. She had never considered that these potential lives also formed part of the mysterious garden she was contemplating. The saint, perceiving her confusion, clarified, "The divine plan for each soul is sacred, my daughter. When spouses deliberately reject the possibility of new life, they are intervening in the loving design of God." Not all of these lights would have come to be incarnated, because conception is also a natural mystery. But many of them were destined to form part of concrete families to fulfill specific missions on earth. Vika wondered how it was possible that souls of people who were never conceived existed. Padre Pio, reading her thoughts, explained, "In the mind of God, every possible soul exists from always. Some are called to earthly existence, others remain in the mystery of divine potentiality. What you see here are the possibilities of life that were deliberately rejected by men, not by God." This aspect of the vision was perhaps the most difficult to understand and the most controversial. Vika herself took years to share it publicly, fearing misinterpretations. But Padre Pio insisted that it was necessary for the world to know the complete truth about respect for life in all its dimensions. While Vika reflected on these profound teachings, Padre Pio led her again toward the first group of souls, those of aborted children. But this time, something had changed. Many of them had gathered, forming a celestial chorus. They did not sing with audible voices, but with vibrations that resonated in Vika's very heart. "They are praying," explained Padre Pio. "They pray for their parents. They pray for the doctors and nurses who participated in the abortions. They pray for the politicians who promote laws against life. They pray for all humanity so that it may awaken from the moral lethargy in which it finds itself submerged." This was perhaps the most moving aspect of the entire vision. These children, innocent victims of others' decisions, had become powerful intercessors. Instead of crying out for vengeance, they pleaded for mercy. Instead of harboring resentment, they offered forgiveness. "My daughter," said Padre Pio with a solemn voice, "what you have seen today must transform your life and that of all those who hear your testimony. I have not shown you these things so that you may judge anyone, but so that you may understand the gravity of human decisions and the infinite mercy of God." Padre Pio continued explaining to Vika that many mothers who have aborted live tormented by guilt and remorse. Some believe they have committed the unforgivable sin. Others try to silence their conscience, convincing themselves that they did nothing wrong. But all, absolutely all, are loved by God with a love that surpasses our understanding. "Tell them," asked Padre Pio, "that my arms are always open to receive them, that the heart of my Lord bleeds for them, not with anger, but with infinite compassion. That there is no sin, however grave it may be, that cannot be forgiven if there is a truly repentant heart." Vika assented, understanding the enormity of the mission entrusted to her. It was not just about denouncing the evil of abortion, but also about announcing the hope of forgiveness and reconciliation. The vision was beginning to fade. Vika felt that she was gradually returning to her physical body, leaving behind that mysterious garden where she had contemplated the secrets of the beyond. But before the experience ended completely, Padre Pio showed her one last image that would be engraved in fire in her memory. It was an enormous cosmic clock whose gears turned inexorably. The hands approached a determined hour that Vika could not specify, but which produced in her a sensation of imminent urgency. "Time is running out, my daughter," warned the saint. "Soon, very soon, the world will have to face the consequences of its decisions. Every rejected life, every innocent soul sacrificed on the altar of human selfishness cries out for justice before the throne of God." Padre Pio did not speak with a threatening tone, but with the sadness of a father who sees his children walking toward the abyss and cannot stop them, despite his warnings. "But there is still time," he added with hope. "Time for repentance, time for conversion, time to repair as much as possible the damage caused. That is why I chose you as a messenger. That is why Medjugorje has become a beacon of hope for a world that is shipwrecked in darkness." With these words, the vision concluded. Vika found herself once again in her room, on her knees, with her face bathed in tears. The experience had lasted only a few minutes according to earthly time, but for her it had been like a journey of years through the deepest spiritual realities. For days, Vika could not speak about what she had seen. The impact was too strong, the images too vivid, the revelations too overwhelming. She needed time to process everything, to understand the implications of what the saint had shown her. But the world could not wait indefinitely. The messages from Padre Pio were not only for the personal consolation of the visionaries, but to be shared with all humanity. And so, little by little, Vika began to reveal aspects of her vision to those pilgrims who went to Medjugorje seeking answers, consolation, or simply an encounter with the divine. Her words, always simple but profound, began to touch hearts. Mothers who had aborted found the path to reconciliation. Fathers who had pressured to interrupt unwanted pregnancies discovered the possibility of forgiveness. Doctors and nurses involved in abortion procedures reconsidered their participation in such acts. But perhaps the most impactful thing was the effect that Vika's testimony had on those people who were considering abortion as a solution for unexpected or problematic pregnancies. Many, upon hearing about the destiny of these innocent souls, upon understanding that it was not simply about interrupting a biological process, but about intervening in the divine plan for a unique and unrepeatable person, reconsidered their decision. And here, dear brother, dear sister who listens to me, is where your own story intertwines with Vika's and with that of those millions of small lights that she contemplated in her vision. Because you too are called to be a witness to the truth. You too can become a defender of these innocent lives who cannot defend themselves. You too can be an instrument of reconciliation for those who carry the weight of past decisions that they now deeply regret. How? Allow me to share with you some concrete ways in which you can respond to this revelation you have received today. First, through incessant prayer. Padre Pio in Medjugorje insisted again and again on the importance of the daily rosary. Every Hail Mary that you pray is like a drop of celestial dew that falls upon these souls that Vika contemplated in her vision. Every Our Father is a protective shield for a mother who is considering abortion. Every Glory Be is a ray of hope for those who live tormented by remorse. Second, through fasting and penance. Certain demons can only be cast out with prayer and fasting, Jesus taught us. Abortion, as the saint revealed to Vika, is one of the most terrible manifestations of the power of darkness in our world. By offering your fast, you are weakening the chains with which the enemy keeps so many consciences enslaved. Third, through courageous witness. Do not fear to speak of these truths, even when you face incomprehension or rejection. Do it always with love, with respect for those who think differently, but without diluting the truth you have received. Remember that you are not judging anyone, you are offering a light in the midst of darkness, a hope in the midst of despair. Fourth, through concrete action. Support those mothers who, facing difficult or unexpected pregnancies, need material, emotional, or spiritual help to choose life. There are countless Catholic organizations dedicated precisely to this noble task. Your time, your resources, your abilities, everything can be placed at the service of this cause. And fifth, through active mercy. If you know someone who has gone through the painful experience of abortion, do not condemn them. Love them as Padre Pio loves that person. Show them the path to reconciliation and inner peace. Remind them that there is no sin that the Lord cannot forgive when there is a truly repentant heart. Vika's vision reminds us that we are immersed in a spiritual battle of cosmic proportions. It is not simply a political debate or a question of individual rights. It is about the eternal destiny of millions of souls, about the divine plan for every human being, from their conception to their natural death. Padre Pio, in his apparitions at Medjugorje, came precisely to alert us about the gravity of the current situation and to offer us the spiritual weapons necessary for this combat. He does not ask us the impossible. He asks us for daily prayer, regular fasting, frequent confession, reading of sacred scripture, and Eucharist. 5 stones, like those of David before Goliath, sufficient to defeat the giant that threatens to destroy not only innocent lives, but the very civilization of love that Christ came to establish. The story of Vika and her vision of the souls of aborted children is not simply a moving account, it is a call to action, a spiritual alarm clock, an invitation to rethink our priorities and our commitment to the gospel of life. As I conclude this message, I want you to know that these small lights that Vika contemplated are right now interceding for you. They are praying that your heart may open completely to divine grace, that you may find the necessary strength in these difficult times, that you may become an authentic apostle of the culture of life. And Padre Pio, our celestial Father, is by your side in every moment of this battle. He, who knows the pain of seeing his Lord suffer, perfectly understands the suffering of all mothers, including those who made decisions they now regret. His protective mantle is sufficiently ample to shelter all of us.
Do not be afraid to respond to this call. Do not hesitate to take the step toward a deeper commitment to the defense of life, from its conception to its natural end. Do not become discouraged in the face of difficulties or the apparent lack of immediate results. Remember that as Vika's vision showed, every prayer, every sacrifice, every act of love has a direct impact on the spiritual reality that surrounds us. Although we cannot perceive it with our physical senses, your life, dear brother, dear sister, can become a beacon of hope for many. Your testimony can be the instrument that God uses to save countless lives. Your love can be the balm that heals deep wounds in hearts shattered by remorse. And when the day comes when you cross the threshold of eternity, imagine the reception that awaits you. All those small lights that you helped protect, all those souls for whom you interceded, all those hearts to whom you showed the path of reconciliation will be there to welcome you to the celestial home. Padre Pio of Medjugorje revealed to us through Vika a truth that the modern world strives to hide. Every human life, from its first instant, is sacred, unique, and unrepeatable, infinitely loved by God. This truth does not change with human laws, with cultural fashions, or with dominant ideologies. It is a truth engraved in the very structure of the universe, in the heart of creation. And we who have had the privilege of knowing this truth also have the responsibility to live it and proclaim it, not with arrogance, not with moral superiority, but with the humility of one who has received an unmerited gift and wishes to share it with everyone. May the testimony of Vika, may the vision that Padre Pio granted her be for all of us a renewed impulse on this path of fidelity to the gospel of life. May her example of courage and perseverance inspire us when we face difficulties or misunderstandings. May her love for Padre Pio nourish our own devotion to the saint, an inexhaustible source of spiritual fortitude. And may, one day, when the human history reaches its culmination and all secrets are revealed, we may be among those who defended the cause of the most defenseless, who raised their voice for those who had no voice, who loved the least of our brothers, as Jesus taught us. Do not miss our next video that is appearing on your screen right now. Click on the card and discover more revelations that Padre Pio shared with the visionaries of Medjugorje for these decisive times. Each message is a light in the midst of darkness, a sure guide so as not to lose course in the storm that crosses our church and our world. Your soul needs this. Your salvation could depend on it. The Father of Heaven awaits you with open arms.